Hello everyone, Nashi here. There's been a lot of questions on the forums and on Reddit about the Maehwa Awakening, so I thought I'd take a few moments and make this video to go over those things, such as combos, chase cancel animation, how to set it up, what kind of other cancel animations are there available to us, skill add-ons, as well as the initiators that we have available to us. I do not claim to be the best Maehwa. This is more or less just a tips and tricks to get you going, and for you to discover your own play style as you move along. Alright, so what kind of skills should you be targeting? Um, with the Pre-Awaken skills, keep in mind I'm level 58. I also have a little over 1100 skill points to work with, so I have a little bit more flexibility than, say, new players trying to level up. So, some of the stuff I chose consists of more or less combo pieces from the Pre-Awaken set, and also the high PvP damage dealers, because those are utilized still, such as the chase cancel into blooming, or forward blind thrust blooming, or red moon is still useful in some regards. So to give you perspective, this is kind of the particular skills that I chose. Went all the way to backstep /3 because I find it to be a very useful combo piece. I don't really use it that often, so it's not necessary at all. Blind thrust, very useful ability. You won't be using it as often as your awakened skills, so you don't necessarily have to get it up to rank 3, but I would at least recommend rank 2, and then end up getting ultimate Nemesis Slash, because Nemesis Slash is a very good heal to use in PvE, and sometimes even in PvP, but mostly for PvE. Maehwa Will, rank 3, there's no reason not to have that. It's free WP every 15 seconds. Very good in a crunch when you really need it, and it's quick soluble. Chase, get Chase 1, Chase 2, and Ultimate. I use that because of the style of Chase cancel I'm doing, which is the Chase Slice with the keybind. So that's why I justify getting all 3 of these. There is another Chase option available out there that doesn't require Chase 2, but there's no reason not to have it. You don't need your kicks, you don't need whirlwind cut anymore. Carver is useless, so you can lock that down so you don't accidentally proc that. You can click the little lock command here to lock that. Divider, or decapitate, you do not need anymore. You can still use it for a stun, but I wouldn't waste points in beefing up its damage. At least not until you're done with everything else you need. For Dragonbite, I went ahead and got all the way to Dragonbite 3 because I still use it in PvP scenarios. So it's pretty decent damage dealer. This primarily isn't a damage dealer itself, but I wanted to make sure I got the accuracy bonus. As you see, it scales up from 3, 4, and 5. I just wanted to make sure that my stiff would land as much as possible. Then Dragon Claw, into Ultimate Dragon Claw for some high damage. It's 30% attack range and 100% crit chance. It's very high damage. No reason not to have it. Dragon Claw just doesn't have that option available to it. It doesn't have any 100% crit or the damage range, so no reason not to get Ultimate. If you're going to get one, you're going to get this one. Lunar Slash is more or less a PvE piece. I don't really find myself using it, but I still got it anyways, so you don't need to get it. Red Moon, you can get at minimum rank 3 if you can afford the points. Ultimate is not necessary, but it's really good for PvE, and the PvP negative movement speed can be nice at times, but it's not necessary. Ascension to Heaven is really good, just complements Red Moon. just makes it deal that much more damage in PvP and PvE scenarios. So the skill is still used, so there's no reason not to pick it up, other than that you don't have the skill points to support it. Blooming, I would recommend this as a must-have in your kit as an option. Not necessarily that you'll be using on a regular basis, but you can, and I would get in the habit of trying to use it if you can. But it's not a must, but I would personally, in my opinion, make it a must. There's just a lot of damage to it. Stuns your opponent, drains their mana or their MP, their WP, and it puts a bleed on your target. So it's pretty potent. And plus it can be used in some of our cancel options from Awaken to Pre-Awaken. For CCing, I wanted to give myself some range CC options in Pre-Awaken in case I wanted to initiate in a fight like that. You can use Cyclone Slash to possibly float your target, or box them in, make them go a different direction, or throw up their block. Use it to your advantage to kind of force your opponent to go somewhere else than where they're currently going, or potentially CC them. That's why I use this. It's quick slottable, so you can just attach it to your skill bar here, and then use it from there. Stub Arrow is our main range CC. I went ahead and got all the way to triple shot. There's no reason not to get it other than skill points being available. This just gives you options. If you miss with your initial Stub Arrow, you have extra shots to hit your opponent with. Also helps if you utilize the skill add-ons with this ability. The more shots help you potentially land the add-ons, the add-on bonuses. There's no reason to get any of the other arrow skills. We just won't be using them. We're not going to stay in our Pre-Awaken that often to support and justify using them, so no reason to get them. Precise Martial Arts, very much important that you get this. The stiffness nullification is huge. We use a lot of stiffs in both Pre-Awaken and Awaken. So this will really help with making sure that you land your stiffs on your target. Sword Training, all these passes you want to get. Sword Training just gives you more damage for each rank, +1 attack power each time. So Maneuver Training gives you +1 evasion, melee evasion, mind you. So there's no reason not to have that. That's maxed out. Infinity Mastery gives you health each level, 100 per rank, all the way until the final rank, which is 200, and then all accuracy 2%. No reason not to have this. This is your survivability, basically, and accuracy for connecting attacks. And then this is Skill Hunter, so you get extra monster damage. No reason not to get it unless you just don't have the skill points, but it's 3 skill points each, I believe. Nope, I'm sorry. This one actually scales up. These ones are 3 points each. So the next rank will be 10 for this one. So yeah, but it's really good to have. Really helps you farm in PvE, so definitely worth picking up. And Pre-Awaken, these are all the skills that I grabbed. Pretty much every one available to me because I had the skill points to support it. For starters, you'll be stuck with this one initially. You'll want to get the Full Moon Wall, General Apricot, which is our Awaken ability, Sleet Steps, which is our sideways movement, and can also go backwards, but also gives us a crit bonus 10 seconds after the first use, so it's really good to have. The training here you do not necessarily need to get. I maxed out up to what I can get right now because I had the points. You do not necessarily have to get all these. Tenacious Edge, I have all the way maxed to what I can potentially get. It's a very useful ability. It's a stiff, has frontal guard. Depending on the types of hits you're doing, it does certain things, whether it does HP regen or WP regen. They do different things. Also note it's a down attack. Pedal Drill is our main initiator, one of our main initiators, along with Tenacious Edge. And Oppression and Petal Bloom are all main initiators in our Awaken form. But the Pedal Drill does a stun, gives you super armor while using the skill, invincibility while moving, which is basically while you're dashing through the air to land on your target. It's a gap closer, and this is also useful in PvE as it gains WP back. But everything about the skill is on here to read, so you can read this at your own leisure. Main thing to note is that it's a stun and a gap closer. Sticky Snowflake. There's no super armor or guard on this, so be careful when using it. It's a very useful skill. A lot of people don't realize how much damage potential this skill has. For example, right now, at only rank 2, I only deal 4 hits to 4 potential targets. And if I succeed on those hits, they gain a movement and attack speed debuff of 20% for 10 seconds, and a bleed for 30 every 3 seconds for 9 seconds. And it's also a down attack. But when you get higher in the ranks, at the max rank, you actually gain an extra hit, so now it's 5 hits. And then its damage scaling just skyrockets. So it goes from 798 to 811, which is only a 13% difference, and then all the way to 950, which is basically 139% difference. And then it gains an extra hit to boot, so that's basically adding on 1,000% extra damage to the skill at its max rank. It's huge. And its bleed goes up as well. So, pretty useful ability. Do not underestimate this. Just be careful when you're using it. Frost Pillars is a very good finisher. It does not have natural crit, but it does give you a crit bonus of plus 20 for 10 seconds on use. So essentially it does have 20% crit, but the important thing is that it is a buff that lasts throughout any other ability for 10 seconds, so it's nice. This has frontal guard, and has the potential to knock down your opponent, and it is a down attack, so it deals very significant damage when you have a downed opponent. Moonrise is a staple ability you'll be using in PvE and PvP. It does an initial stab that looks like a little star. That is a stiff. It also does a flip uppercut, which will actually float your opponent. So it does 2 different types of CCs. Very useful in that regard. It does very good damage in all aspects. Also helps you gain extra WP 20 per successful stab. So that's why it's very useful in PvE situations. It does give super armor on use, but if you continuously use it, because this is a spammable ability, you actually won't get that kind of benefit beyond the first one. So, for example, I can just keep spamming it, but while it's on cooldown, I actually won't have the benefits such as super armor. The last ability on here for our main skills, rather than our flows and our utility skills, is Petal Bloom. Petal Bloom is our highest damage dealing ability that we have in our kit. It deals 808% times 5 at its current rank, and it jumps all the way to 924 per hit. And that's just with the instant stab. If you do a charge stab, then it deals 8 hits rather than 5. And same with the final rank, so significantly more damage. It's a 100% crit, has frontal guard while you're charging, so be careful to not position yourself to get flanked. It also has super armor while stabbing, so if you need to quickly release it so you don't get CC'd, it's a good way to make sure that you're not going to get CC'd. It is an initiator. You can knock down your opponent fairly easily with this ability, and because it's a knockdown. And also to note, it is a down attack and down smash attack. So if you down your opponent, you can use this to extend that down with it being a down smash, which is classified as a CC ground extender. So it just means that they stay on the ground longer. Right. And to go into the utility and flows, for utilities we have roll edge. When you're using your block, you do a little thrust forward, and it gives you frontal guard while using it, and it gives you a attack speed bonus of plus 10% for 10 seconds, and stun if you hit successfully. So very useful ability. It has a cooldown of 4 seconds, so keep in mind in wanting to use this ability. It is, however, a lot better than our retaliation, which had a ridiculous 20-second cooldown. So step up from there. Also to note, retaliation was doing a knockdown, whereas roll rage is a stun. So this is actually a lot more useful. Oppression is another good utility and initiator of sorts. It's very difficult to land as an initiator, but you can. But what it does is it does a little bit of damage. It takes the opponent's DP down by 20 for 10 seconds. So that could be very significant in helping one-shot your opponent or dealing significantly more damage to them. And it stiffs if it successfully can stiff the target. For the final utility skill, we have Stigma. This is a stiff. It can stiff your target, and it has frontal guard, but the interesting thing to note is it basically does like a little dash back and then attacks right where you originally were and a little bit farther in front of that. So if someone's like right on top of you, you can press this ability real quick as it's a fast action skill and stiff your target. So it's pretty useful. For the flows, the current ones I have are New Year's Eve, Tip of the Iceberg, Moonlight Dash, and Cloud Stab. The only one I don't have right now is December. I got 13% more to go before I get December. But to go over the ones I do have, New Year's Eve is very useful. It can be used on any stab attack. So stab attacks include Tenacious Edge at the very beginning of it or at the end of it. Pedal Drill at the end of it. When you actually land, you can actually press spacebar and utilize the New Year's Eve. Moonrise, its first attack does a stab, so you can actually cancel Moonrise by using it, so you don't do the flip. And then Petal Bloom, you can do it at the end of Petal Bloom, because it's a stab attack as well. So this ability could be used on any one of those. And the reason why you would use it is because it does some significant damage, even though it's only 2 hits. It's on 100% crit chance, and it can potentially land a stiff on the target. So it's very useful. Something to note, it does use a decent amount of WP, so just be careful of spamming it. It's not a spammable ability. It's not something I would recommend spamming. Moving on, we got Tip of the Iceberg. Tip of the Iceberg follows up with Frost Pillars. This is huge damage. When you combine this ability with Frost Pillars, if you have an opponent that's knocked down and you pull off Frost Pillars, which deals 948% times 4 hits, and then the Tip of the Iceberg flow, you're talking a lot of damage right there, which Tip of the Iceberg alone does 1100 times 5 hits. So it does significantly more damage than Frost Pillars itself. It's pretty dangerous. Also note both of these have the potential to knock down your target. So if the first one, Frost Pillars, does not knock down your target, but they're still there taking the hits, Tip of the Iceberg can knock down as well. And they're both down attacks. So these are definitely finisher pieces. Next ability, Moonlight Dash. Moonlight Dash is with Petal Bloom, and it basically does a little mini Petal Bloom right after it. You have super armor while using this ability as well. It's also a down attack and a down smash, but it does not have a knockdown aspect to it. So, but it does significant damage, just like Petal Bloom, just not as high as Petal Bloom does some very serious damage. But if you hit with both of them on a downed opponent, you're most likely going to kill them or deal severe damage to them. So, very useful flow ability. And then the final flow that I have, Cloud Stab. Cloud Stab does pretty good damage, and it has Frontal Guard, and it can potentially float your target, but the main thing is it gives 100 HP per successful hit. So it's very good for PvE sustain and even PvP sustain if the need arises. Something to note, you can use this actually at the beginning after the stab on Moonrise, or at the end of Moonrise, so after the flip and the uppercut. So, is the left mouse button to use it, so that last part was the ability. And that is the skills. Alright, so for skill add-ons, let's go ahead and take a look at what I'm rocking right now.
Be strong for yourself.
Currently, for my particular setup that I'm using, I know some other people are using something similar, if not the same, but since I'm not using PvE, or my Pre-Awaken for PvE stuff as much anymore, I actually focused my Pre-Awaken add-ons on more PvP-oriented add-ons, such as Stub Arrow, giving yourself accuracy bonus for 12 seconds if you connect, and then instantly reduce their NP for 3 seconds every 9 seconds can be pretty useful and annoying for your opponent. Blooming, increase the damage on it, as well as the attack speed, so I can quickly recover from it. Red Moon, so that I increase the damage on it and my other abilities, and increase the attack speed on it, so I can quickly go into another ability. And that is just the Pre-Awaken ones right there. For the Awaken, I use Moonrise and Petal Drill. For Moonrise, I did the PvP and the crit bonus here, just because I'm using my Maehwa for more PvP oriented stuff. For PvE aspects, you can just use the monster damage on Moonrise, or you can actually change this out for Tenacious Edge, which will actually have a more uptime, even though it's not as much PvE damage potential as Moonrise. The uptime on this, you'll be using the skill a lot, so you can use this and the attack speed bonus from this one, and that might be more beneficial to you. The only difference between the two would be the crit bonus versus the attack speed on Tenacious Edge, and the 5 extra monster damage. For the other ability, I currently have Petal Drill. Because I'm initiating with this skill a lot, I want to make sure that if I miss, I'm not getting punished too severely for it. So I'm using the all defense plus 20 for 10 seconds, and that will actually help me out throughout the entire fight. And then, of course, the attack speed to help me get into more abilities much more quickly. It's really not a better option for pedal drill. I mean, you could do monster damage, but it's not ability that you would want to waste on monster damage. You can do pretty much nothing else. It's not really anything worth it. Attack speed or PvP attack for 5, it's not worth it at all. So you might as well just get the 20 defense and the attack speed bonus. Now, for what people are doing when they're hitting 60, most people, if they're PvP oriented, will focus on getting Stigma and either getting the pain damage, which I think is like 54, 60 damage bleed every 3 seconds for 9 seconds, I believe, or something like that. Let me check that real quick. Yeah, 63 pain damage for 3 seconds for 12 seconds if you successfully hit with it. So that can be pretty significant. And then you can also get the evasion or the crit. Most of the time people are getting the evasion because we have a lot of crit on our skills, so this is kind of pointless to have. Not completely pointless, just kind of overdoing it. You're not getting the full effect, whereas the evasion will actually help you out throughout a fight. So those are the two particular ones that people are using. Alright, and that is the skill add-ons. This is Pedal Drill into Moonrise into Frost Pillars. This is Pedal Drill into Moonrise into Petal Bloom. This is Pedal Drill into Sticky Snowflake into Moonrise into Petal Bloom. This is Pedal Drill into Sticky Snowflake into Moonrise into Frost Pillars. Here is Pedal Drill into Blooming. Here is Pedal Drill into Red Moon. Here is Moonrise into Red Moon. For the chase cancel, what you need to do is you need to set up a keybind for the WW option. If you go to settings, go to input, and scroll down all the way to the WW right here. As you can see, I have mine set on a mouse function so that it is easily accessible for my right hand. You can set it up for whatever key you feel is most comfortable. Before the Awakening I was using C, but when the Awakening came out I obviously had to switch it for the weapon swap. After you set that, you can then switch to your Pre-Awaken, and then you won't be able to see it on the keystrokes, but I am going to be pressing the WW. You see that I go forward normally. Now, in order to cause the chase cancel, you need to utilize Slice, which is your left mouse button click. So the WW plus Slice. Now normally, if you're going to chase forward, you have to hold down the W key so you go forward, and then press right mouse button. As you can see, there's a big difference. Something to note, the amount of stamina consumption and WP consumption is a lot lower when you're doing the normal chase. And as you can see, maybe the distance is actually a little bit farther than a typical chase when you're doing it in the cancel animation. But the speed is there, it's a lot different, so it's definitely worth it in certain circumstances. For traveling long distances, it's better to just do the normal chase. Say you're coming back from a death and a node war and you're needing to get to another enemy base if you don't have your horse. You can either just use this or just run normally. In combat, for avoiding scenarios or setting up an attack, chase cancel. So that is how you set up the chase cancel. Alright, so a lot of times during combat, specifically in PvP, you'll have this problem where you're getting into block lock from your full moon wall. So basically, what I'm getting at is when you're being consecutively attacked while having your guard up, um, you are unable to move in any way, shape, or form. There's only one option available to you to get out of that. So if you're being attacked while you're in this position, you cannot move. You'll consecutively take damage, be pushed back a little bit depending on the type of attack. You'll gain WP and guard from the attacks and CCs, but you won't be able to move. You'll be restricted to your movements. One way to get out of that is by using Royal Rage, which is the ability right here. This does a little thrust and has the potential to stun your opponent. But what's important about it is that it actually helps you get out of this block lock scenario. So for example, you're in the scenario, you're being attacked, you do that, and then you can chase backwards out of it. Now, the reason why it's safe is because Royal Rage has frontal guard itself, just like your block does. So, doing this motion has no consequences. Now, a typical way to get out of this is to use Stigma. Stigma is our F ability. It's quick slottable. And what it does is if you successfully CC with it, you can actually stiff your opponent. And also to note, it has frontal guard as well. So for this entire plan of escape, essentially, you have frontal guard, and it really helps out in that regard. Not only that, but if you actually do land your stun with Royal Rage, you won't break that CC chain if you use if you use Stigma, because it'll actually give you a stiffness, and then you can actually go into either another stun via Pedal Drill or a knockdown and continue CC chaining them and potentially killing them. So that's an option for you. So this would be the typical motion you'd want if you're being constantly attacked on your frontal guard. That's your ideal escape pattern. Another way to go about this is this one was brought up by a player named Pre-Awaken on the forums. So credit goes to him for this. But you can actually quick slot your block here. So you can drag it and put it on a key bind. I put it on an extra key here and I bound it to E. Now, you can bind it to whatever key you feel comfortable with. I chose E because it has no effect on my playstyle. A few things to note. The character E is associated with Divider. So if you're in Pre-Awaken form and you press E, you'll do Divider. But because I have it quick slotted to, or a hotkey to this quick slot ability, I can no longer use Divider. So that's something to consider when using this. The other thing to consider is that in our Awaken form, E is the hotkey for, if I can get this out here, our General Apricot, which is our Awaken buff. The Awaken buff is very useful. I use it all the time. But for me, I use it on the number 4 key, so it's not a hindrance to me whatsoever. But that's my preference. You can use whatever key you want for this block lock. But the reason why you would want to use this is because you can do block, but you can spam it. Now, this may seem a little awkward, like, what's the point of this? Like, why am I doing this? Well, the reason why is because you actually gain all the effects of using the full moon wall, meaning frontal guard. However, you do have the issue of not being able to regenerate WP when being hit. and also you cannot use Royal Rage during this spamming of the Moonwall key. So there are some downsides to it. See, I can't trying to use my left mouse button to proc a Royal Rage. I have to wait till I fully stop that animation to use it. But the reason why is because this, if you were to be attacked while doing this, you actually can chase in which direction you want, or use another ability. You're not restricted, and you do not get block locked down. It is awkward at first. It will be something to get used to if you decide to choose this as an option, but you won't have to rely on having Royal Rage available. Because if Royal Rage is on cooldown, you're in block lock, period. There's no way to get out of it. So you have to have Royal Rage in order to get out of that scenario. And if you do it this way, you are not restricted to that. So you can use your Royal Rage more offensively. So that's my justification for that. Use it if you want. How I set it up is I went to input, keys, ended up taking off. E is your special action too, but I put it on, for me, this particular hotkey ended up being hotkey 14, and that's what I did to utilize this. Alright, so with Sleet Steps, which is our sideways movement, or you can actually move backwards as well, which gives a crit bonus, you can actually use it to kind of cancel into certain abilities, such as Oppression. Now, Oppression, if you try to use this normally, I'll go ahead and demonstrate. I'm going to be trying to spam the ability while I'm using something else. But what happens is you basically have to finish the animation of that ability before you can use Oppression. So it kind of makes it clunky to use, and can lead you into dangerous situations because you have to kind of stay still and you don't have super armor or anything during this time. So, for example, I have to wait till that full animation recovery has finished before I can use it. So it's kind of dangerous at times. Some things you can do to help alleviate that and kind of accelerate the casting of it is use Sideways Step or Sleet Step. So, for example, that was pretty quick and smooth. You know, there was not much of an issue there. And while using sideways movement, you have invulnerability or super armor. So that's one way you can go about using that. Some other Sleet Step cancels you can do. If you have Petal Bloom on cooldown, so Petal Bloom being our shift right click button, you can actually move sideways faster by using the right click button with the normal movements of sideways step. So normal movements of sideways step and the click button. So the right click button. The right click button is just a normal back chase, but if you combine the two, normally what will happen is you'll end up doing the Petal Bloom because you're holding down shift. So it'll end up being like this. But now with Petal Bloom on cooldown, I can go sideways a lot faster. Something to note though, your stamina does drain very quickly, so I would use it in a way to get around your opponent very quickly and then go from there. So you could do something like that. Another option available to you is if you have Petal Bloom on cooldown, you can actually do the back motion. Kind of do a little snake motion to get out. There is a faster way to do it, however, I don't recall how to do that quicker. So, that's the current sleek step motions that I have that I am providing you. Alright.